$10,000. It's about how much money I made on my very first real estate deal. And that's how much money you should at least earn by wholesaling real estate. So let's talk about that right now. $10,000. How you make $10,000 in 30 days or less if you don't have a lot of money to get started with. That's what we call wholesaling. And here's the problem most people make. They think they need to make money and have money themselves to get started with. And sometimes you don't have the money, but you have the time to find a good deal and to flip it to somebody else who does have the money. That's called wholesaling. Okay, so every property you see that is listed is probably retail, frankly. And we don't want retail. We want to buy wholesale. And therefore, we're looking for highly motivated sellers who are willing to lower that price so we can make a profit. And how do you buy a property if you don't have the cash, you don't have the credit, you can't qualify for a big mortgage, you couldn't put a large down payment? Well, that's the secrets to wholesaling. You don't need any of those things. Wholesaling is a strategy to make money on properties without ever having to put down a large down payment or get a conventional mortgage. And therefore, how the heck do you do that? $10,000. Well, say buy a property that's worth $210,000. You buy it at $200,000. You make $10,000. That's your profit. Wholesalers are tasked to finding discounted properties from motivated sellers and then selling the properties to an investor buyer, collecting an assignment fee for their efforts. Did you get that? In other words, you don't need to have the money yourself. You might say, my credit sucks. There's no way that I could get a mortgage. Therefore, you don't even look. Well, I want you to look. You're looking for highly motivated sellers, and then you're going to tie that property up. You're going to say, I'd like to buy your property. What would you like? And they mention a price that you know is low. You say, great, let's do it. You give them as small as earnest money as you possibly can give them, and now you've tied it up, and therefore you can sell that piece of paper to somebody else and make lots of these kinds of pieces of paper. That's what wholesaling is all about. You got to find a bargain. If you don't, then you can't flip it. And you want to flip it, so you're looking for a bargain. Finding a motivated seller is the key to getting a good bargain. Their need to sell often motivates them to agree to a lower offer price or flexible financing terms. Many wholesalers market their willingness to buy houses online or drive around town to find distressed property. That's how you find deals. You have to assume, I want you to assume as if your credit was perfect. Yep, I want you to assume that you had $10 million in the bank. I want you to assume that your financial statement was huge and that you had cash flow. Oh my gosh. Because if you think like that, then when you go look for real estate, you could say, well, boy, if I had that kind of money, would I buy that one? And more than likely, you wouldn't, because they're very rare, these bargains. But when you find them, you want to be able to tie them up immediately. That's the finding part. So start off with the mindset that you've got all the cash you need. You're using other people's resources. So I've been talking about finding these great deals, right? Well, I have an analogy in my mind that I use. It's like there's a lake, and there are coves and streams coming into that lake where sometimes fish hang out, and there are about 9 places on this lake where the fish hang out. And there are different kind of fish in every different spot, and therefore there are 9 ways of finding highly motivated sellers, such as, obviously, real estate agents, but most real estate agents are retail-oriented, and I don't want to deal with them. I want to find a real estate agent who is an investor, him or herself, because they understand what we're looking for, and therefore they understand what we're talking about. So when we say we're looking for a highly motivated seller, they get it. That's a very big cove with lots of big fish in it. Then there's another place where you could do some advertising yourself, because very few people do this. You want to do things that people don't do, and therefore they don't put Facebook ads out. Now you have a city. You can literally, on Facebook, you can say, I'm in this particular city. If you're interested, I will write you an offer as soon as you call me and tell me the deal that you have that you'd like to sell. And therefore, you guarantee that you'll write them an offer. What kind of offer will you write? Well, it's a bargain price offer, of course, But they may not accept it, but you wrote the offer, and you never can tell that sometimes later on, the offer you wrote or even spoke verbally can eventually turn into a deal a few months down the line. So it's making offers is really important. You got the property under contract. Woohoo! That's such a big deal. When the seller signs his name to that contract, now it gives you the legal right to flip it. Now, 3 little secret words you're going to add to your contract. Your name, whatever your name is, and or assigns. That's it. You don't have to tell the seller anything. You just add those 3 words at the end of your name, and therefore it gives you the legal right. I'm not an attorney, I'm not trying to give you legal advice, but in my opinion, it gives you the right to sell that contract to anybody you want to at a higher price before you close. Meaning they're not going to look at your credit. You don't have to qualify for that expensive conventional mortgage. You don't have to put a large down payment. You just have to have a little bit of earnest money where you've tied it up and it becomes a short-term option that you can sell to somebody else. And I'm telling you, that's so exciting because now anybody who's looking for real estate, and is everybody looking for real estate now? There's so much money chasing after deals that you come along with a deal you've tied up, and there's all kinds of people fighting for your piece of paper, that little contract that you signed with the seller. That's worth 10 grand at least to you, and maybe, and sometimes it's might worth 50, 60, 100 grand. One of my students found a commercial property, tied it up and made $200,000 because the seller didn't know what its value was, and made it almost immediately, 200 grand. So 10 grand might be small when you're thinking about it. A contract, when you have it, you can flip it, you can sell it, you can assign it to somebody else. A real estate contract isn't necessarily an obligation for a particular individual to purchase a home. Rather, it gives the individual the right to buy that particular home, but that right can be sold and assigned to another purchaser if the terms of the contract allow it. And does your contract allow it? And or assigns. It allows it. So now you can either sell it quickly and make a chunk of cash, or you could buy it yourself and hang on to it and end up with cash flow. But usually when you're beginning, you don't have lots of cash, so flipping is how you get started. It's how I got started. I flipped my first property about 30 days after I graduated from college, and then I began flipping other properties to other rich people because I wasn't rich until eventually I got rich enough where people could flip those properties to me. That's the storyline that you're going to follow. So we've been talking about how awesome wholesaling is and how that's the way you make chunks of money and 10 grand here and 10 grand there. But is this a lot of money? To me, it's nothing because it isn't wealth. It's just a chunk of money that you go spend on a car or something else that goes down in value. You want streams of income that flow into your life. That's what you really, really want. So you want to take that 10 grand, oh yeah, and invest it in something that goes up in value, not down in value. And so that's why wholesaling is the way you get started, but it's not the end game, right? You got that? Wholesaling is a way to generate cash, usually 5 to 10 grand, without having to put up any money of your own. The end goal, as always, is investing with the goal of constant passive income. Making chunks of money is active money, and you only make it once. You flip that property and it's gone and somebody else makes all the cash flow on it. I don't want to do that. I want to take the money, that 10 grand I make, and I'm going to go invest it myself in something else that gives me cash flow. It might give me that one property, that one house, that one small apartment building might end up, when it's paid off and the mortgage is paid off, it might end up giving me $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 in cash flow over the next 10 to 20 years. So that's the big game. The challenge. The best book I ever wrote, containing the secrets of how you buy property with little or no money down. As a matter of fact, the subtitle of this book is Send Me to Any Unemployment Line. Let me select someone who's broke, out of work, and discouraged. In 2 days' time, I'll teach them the secrets of wealth. In 90 days, they're back on their feet with $5,000 cash in the bank, never to set foot in an unemployment line. And I did that, selected these people in St. Louis, Missouri. Off they went to make that $5,000 in 90 days and $100,000 in the next 12 months. I want you to have this book. When you click this link, you'll get it and read it and understand how you could do this too. You could start with very little. Now, if you have more than a little, you still need to understand this system. It's how you find, fund, and farm real estate deals. It's the best book I ever wrote. It's not my #1 New York Times bestseller, but without a doubt, this is the best book I ever wrote, and I want you to get a copy of it. Click this link. Hey, thanks for watching. I'm your mentor, Robert Allen, and I want you to subscribe so you can learn a lot more. Leave some comments below. I'll read them. I'm excited to learn what you learned today, and then the next video contains even better stuff.